After the early morning home invasion fiasco, I assumed the HOA might finally recognize the futility of attempting to assert authority over my property. I was wrong. Their next audacious scheme involved the installation of 189 solar panels on my land. According to the HOA, these panels would benefit the community and supposedly reduce my electricity usage. What they failed to grasp was that they had no legal right to place infrastructure on private property without consent, and this was a blatant attempt to encroach upon my ownership. I first discovered the installation plans through routine drone surveillance. The HOA had contracted a team of installers, claiming that the panels were part of a community energy initiative. The installation area, however, was clearly within my property boundaries. Drones confirmed construction vehicles moving onto my land, measuring equipment, and personnel attempting to mark the site for panel placement. Ranger immediately positioned himself along the perimeter, barking at the intruders, signaling both physical and psychological deterrence. Recognizing that direct confrontation could escalate into a legal quagmire, I devised a preemptive and creative response. I had previously planted hundreds of trees along strategic points across my property. These weren't ordinary trees. They were part of a landscape designed for rapid growth, dense coverage, and controlled expansion. My plan was simple. Use the land itself as a barrier, an army of trees to block the HOA's intrusive solar panels from being installed or functioning. Within hours, I coordinated the growth strategy. Automated irrigation systems, nutrient boosters, and soil-enhancing mechanisms were activated. Drone surveillance guided the process, ensuring that the fastest-growing trees were deployed in critical zones, directly in the line of sight and physical space where the panels were planned. By mid-afternoon, saplings and mature trees were already forming dense, obstructive rows, making it impossible for the installation crew to continue without violating trespass laws or risking damage to the trees themselves. Karen and the HOA were utterly unprepared for this level of strategic retaliation. They attempted to negotiate, insisting that the panels were essential for energy savings and that they had community rights to the space. I responded with clear documentation of property deeds, survey maps, and legal authority, demonstrating that the land was entirely under my control and that any attempt to install infrastructure without permission constituted trespass. Drones captured every argument and protest, feeding live images back to my central command center. The HOA, growing frustrated, attempted to bypass the trees by redirecting construction vehicles and equipment. However, Ranger, strategically positioned near the main access points, prevented any unauthorized entry. I also deployed additional automated barriers, ensuring that the installation crew could not simply maneuver around the growing forest. Within hours, it became clear. The solar panels could not be installed without violating property law or damaging the trees, both of which would carry significant legal and financial consequences. As the day progressed, the trees continued to grow, an almost surreal phenomenon facilitated by accelerated growth systems I had previously developed. Within 24 hours, the area designated for solar panels was effectively blocked by a dense wall of foliage. The HOA's equipment was stranded, their plans thwarted, and their audacity publicly documented. Every drone feed, every camera angle, and every timestamped log served as irrefutable evidence of both the HOA's trespass and the successful enforcement of my property rights. Karen attempted one final maneuver. She threatened legal action, claiming that my trees constituted an obstruction and were interfering with community progress. I countered with meticulously documented evidence showing that the trees were not only fully within my property but had been planted long before any HOA claim to the land. Additionally, any attempt by the HOA to remove or damage the trees would constitute criminal destruction of private property, further solidifying my leverage. By evening, the solar panels remained uninstalled. The HOA was humiliated, and the trees had firmly established themselves as an impenetrable barrier. Ranger patrolled the perimeter, drones continued surveillance, and legal notices were dispatched to every HOA member, warning of trespass, obstruction, and liability for any further encroachment. The message was clear. On my property, ingenuity, preparation, and strategic use of natural resources could decisively neutralize even the most audacious attempts at interference. Reflecting on the incident, I realized this was a turning point in the ongoing HOA saga. From fence disputes to stolen vehicles, lakeside intrusions, patrol boat vandalism, early morning home invasions, and now unauthorized solar panel installations, each escalation had been met with strategic, enforceable, and often unexpected retaliation. The army of trees served not only as a physical barrier but as a psychological lesson. Audacity without understanding the full extent of authority, ownership, and preparation carries unavoidable consequences. Standing on the ridge overlooking the blocked installation site, I understood the broader lesson. Property is law, strategy is power, and creativity is enforcement. Karen and her HOA had once again learned that interference on my ranch is met with decisive, enforceable, and often spectacular consequences. Ranger barked softly, the drones hovered silently, and the trees stood tall as a permanent testament to ownership, ingenuity, and strategic dominance.